and welcome to today's webinar. And today, me, Sona Guliyeva, and Mustafa Üstüner will be moderator for this webinar. And I'll just be giving a short introduction about the ISPRS SC. This is the International Society for Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing Student Consortium. The main purpose of the ISPRS SC is to link the global network of students from different countries who are interested in remote sensing, photogrammetry, and spatial information science, as well as to provide a platform for exchange of knowledge and information across the network. And also, ISPRS Student Consortium organize student-specific events and other actions that integrate student and YAS more effectively into ISPRS activity. Here you can see our current board of directors. We have President Cheryl Rose Rice, we have Vice President Charles Juko, Newsletter Editor-in-Chief Charmaine Cruz, Social Media Administrator Mustafa Üstüner, and myself, Web Administrator. One of the major activities of ISPRS Student Consortium is organizing summer school, and it is aimed to provide opportunity for student and young professionals to participate in several activity and lecture and practical session at a minimal cost. And here you can see there were 4 summer school held in last year. It was conducted in Uganda, Poland, South Korea, and Brazil. Another activity of consortium is newsletter. Newsletter is the main publication of the ISPRS Student Consortium. We have already 14 published newsletters. We can find them from our website, from the link you can see in this slide. And we have upcoming issue and the role of geospatial information during the COVID-19 pandemic and 3D GIS and BAM. And during the ISPRS Congress, the Student Consortium has a different activity as well as speed dating, YAS forum technical sessions, special session on women in remote sensing, photogrammetry, and special information science, panel discussion, general assembly, student night, summer school, and mapping party. And due to the current situation, ISPRS Student Consortium has been organized a virtual room. It was to give another reason to stay at home in this quarantine season for many of us, and it aimed to help everyone to join their time at home by creating space to still remain connected with our community. Also, you can find us on social media. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter. All information and announcement about our activity, event, and another opportunity for student and young professional will post it in this account. And finally, our another activity is organizing webinar, and the objective of the webinar are to diversify the means of information and knowledge dissemination within the ISPRS Student Consortium, to act as a way of connecting the ISPRS member with the wider ISPRS community, and finally to maximize the available expertise within the ISPRS community by enhancing the learning experience of the member of the ISPRS Student Consortium. Here you can familiarize with guideline for webinar. For today's webinar, we will have a duration for lecture proper 40 minutes, and we will have question and answer session and summary part. By default, all attendees are on mute as a join. It is avoid to interrupting our lecture and another attendee. And I would like just ask everyone, please introduce yourself in the chat box and where are you from. Also, there will be a Q&A session after the lecture. If you will have a question, you can use the Q&A window. It's located to your control panel, at the bottom of your control panel. And please keep your question and will be short and related to the topic. And if the lecturer asks question during the lecture, you can answer by pressing the raise your hand button. And when your question has been answered, you can press your hand button. Also, at the end of webinar, you will be directed to an evaluation form after this webinar. I would like ask to everyone complete this form. Your answer will be greatly appreciated. And finally, today's webinar entitled Digital Animal Conservation from Flying to Mapping with Deep Learning. And this webinar, Dr. Devis Tuia will talk about how deep learning can help, especially when assisted by enthusiastic natural lover willing to screen image for protecting wildlife. Dr. Devis has PhD in environmental science, University of Lausanne. Currently, he is professor at Laboratory of Geoinformation Science and Remote Sensing, Wageningen University, and research in Netherlands. His research interests algorithm for data fusion of geospatial data using machine learning and computer vision. Thank you very much for your attention, and it's my pleasure to give the floor to Dr. Devis. Please, Dr. Devis, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me turn my camera on. Hi, can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see you.
Very good. Attendees, can someone say write yes in the chat? Just 1, 2 person, just to make sure that you can hear me and see me. Cool. Okay. Right. Great.
Go.
Oh, now we have a bunch of yes. Excellent. Let me also share my screen. Let's see how this works. Stuck. Okay. Can you see a screen with a mountain in the night for the moment?
Yes.
Very good. And can you now see the slides?
Yeah, perfect.
Great. Okay, so we can start. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for being here today. And it's a pleasure to see you. I mean, to almost see you, because we are in a remote situation. I hope everybody is well and safe and in good health, and that we all stay at home. We must. So we do it, but it doesn't mean that we cannot have a good time talking about science. So the idea today is to talk about one of the topics that are close to my heart, and this is digital animal conservation. So it's one of the main topics in my lab, and I would like to, bring you in a tour about the things we've been doing and how it has been going, and the difficulties we have experienced to try to make an impact to save wild and protect wildlife. So of course, that's me today talking. I will use my mouse. And but of course, there are 2 other persons who contributed a lot to all the research I will be presenting today. One is Benjamin, and you can see with the beautiful blue shirt. I think he is even in the audience today. And Diego here on the right is probably following on YouTube. Anyway, enough said, let's get started. So why this is important? I think it's good to start by setting the stage. So animal conservation is important because many species are endangered. They are hunted by poachers. The horns of rhinos, for example, are prized. And as you can see here in this figure, the poaching of rhinos is on the rise. So you can see here the number of dead animals that are found is increasing. Fortunately, thanks to international actions, the situation starts to look up a little bit better for the rhinos in South Africa, but it doesn't mean that we need to stop our efforts, because that's just a very tiny little part of the picture, and many species are endangered nowadays, and we need to know more about them in order to protect them. So given that, we decided it was a good idea to make our part into that, and I want to share with you what we did. And we'll do that in a talk in 3 parts that I will give you an outline, a visual outline. So this is the first part, which is basically being out in the open and observing, more precisely imaging with cameras. So you can see here this Canon camera. So we work with very simple consumer market cameras, so no fancy sensors that are very costly, but things that can be broken and replaced easily, because we put them on drones, on fixed wings, like the Sensefly here you can see in the pictures. And we basically fly around and we take pictures, and then we try to train model able to detect and recognize the animals. And this will be the second part of my talk. So how we can train an animal detector, so a model that will basically be able to put all these red squares around the different animals. But since no model is perfect, in the third part, I will talk a little bit about how this model can be made interactive and usable and used by people that can be, people detecting, if we have missed some animal or if we've made some mistake, like Diego here telling me that this is a tree and not an animal, and he's right. So these are the three different parts of the talk, and I mean, let's see how it goes. I'll try to take not too much time for each and to keep you entertained. Let's see if I manage to do it. All right, let's get started with the first part. If you have some like pressing questions of understanding, just ask them. Mustafa, please, I will ask you to let me know, because I don't see the chat because I'm in presenter mode. So just let me know if there is some very pressing question. Otherwise, we can have a chat in the end as well. Okay, so the story I want to tell you happens in Namibia. In more specifically in a natural wildlife reserve called Kuzikus, which is located exactly here. So here where the pin goes, and it's a natural reserve where they do a lot of research as well, and they like to collaborate with universities. And basically, they are concerned about monitoring the wildlife and the populations that they have there. And so we started to have some discussion with the rangers and the owner of Kuzikus. And basically, they are very often confronted also by the problem of poaching I was describing before. And for them, knowing on one hand, in the estimation of the grassland, so how much food there is, and on the other side, how many animals are around and how they move, where they are, is very important. So in our first discussion, we were a little bit, unaware of how the things happen in reality. We were the usual machine learning people. We had the algorithms, so everything was easy, So we started by saying, yeah, no problem. With $10,000, $20,000, we can have a drone and fly it around, and it will be very, very easy actually to make a survey that is repeatable and doable in several time steps and with very high accuracy. Everything looked very, very easy. And maybe you're also machine learning enthusiasts, as I am, but there was at some point the need of a little reality check. And I would like to have this little reality check with you guys. And typically by using something that you might have experienced when you were children. Mr. Waldo here, I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Waldo. I hope so, because it's pretty fun. But basically, I would like to play Waldo with you, and mostly in order to see how complex the problem of detecting animals from drones is. So usually I do that interactively in an audience. This is difficult with the setting we have. So I decided to try something new, and let's see if the thing works. I hope so. If it's a catastrophe, I'm sorry, but let's give it a try. So we're gonna play a game. We're gonna play a game, and I basically ask you to go on this website here called kahoot.it. On your mobile phone, please don't use the computer where we are looking at the presentation. If you're looking at the presentation from your mobile, you can play, because you will need both. You will need your screen to see the game and your phone to participate. Okay, so let me also go there now. So now you don't see the presentation anymore, but I will start the game. And you should be able to see something like this.
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, so you can see here's the website where you need to go. It's kahoot.it. And when you're in, you can write this number, and this is the pin to join the game. And you will also have headphones, so you can enjoy the relaxing music while we are playing. Maybe you're dancing as I am, because it's pretty fun. And Benjamin, I know you're in the audience, and of course you cannot play. Sorry. I wait a second just to let people sign in. So we have. I don't expect everybody to sign in, but I mean, if you're willing to prove my point, how complicated it is to make this, I will really enjoy having this game with you. Basically, let me explain what is going to happen. The game is called Wildlife Master, and you will basically receive see a number of pictures, and you will have to tell me how many animals are there. Okay, there will be some answers. And you just have to click the number you think is correct. And to click the number, you basically click on your phone the corresponding color. Time counts. So the faster you click, the more points you make. And you will try to see who's the best. And I'm not playing because I know the answers, of course. I hope you are as excited as I am, because that's the first time I do something like this. I think it's going to be super fun. I'm still waiting a minute, because once we start the game, it started. And if you sign in, then you don't have all the questions. We have time, Mustafa, right? And don't let your phone go into sleep mode, otherwise it kicks you off. Oh, we even have first last. I think I know who that is. Or maybe not. Who knows? Hope you like the music. Oh, we have Last Rhino. I like that nickname. Well done. So you need to play fast. You need to screen and see how many animals are there and vote. And at the end, we will have a podium, and we'll see who is the best animal spotter. So, okay, let's get started. And if more people walking, well, they can also play. Let's go. So this is Wildlife Master, and you will have your first question now. Okay, I see people voting. 7 seconds. All right, time is up. Okay, most people got it right. 34 correct answers. And for 2 animals, which was the correct answer. And if you didn't get it right, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is training, so get used to the game. Let's see who are the winner for the moment. Oh, Last Rhino is number 1. Then we have Sona, Sonia, Emba, and JR or Junior. But don't get too comfortable. Maybe with the next image, your leadership will be challenged. Let's go. Question 2. It's the same, but it's another image. All right, most people got it right. Very well. Easy, no? So I was a little bit like that. So I was thinking about this task exactly like the task you are experiencing. So very simple background, bright white animals in front of you. So, I mean, what could go wrong, right? Oh, we still have Last Rhino, who is having his leadership confirmed. But new challengers, new challenge, Lean Sanity is now second. Let's see how it goes with the next. So now we start to go in a little bit more realistic setting, okay? Something a little bit more difficult. Okay, so you see, now this is a little bit more what we experienced when we had the first imaging campaign. So it was not such clean and easy to do. And basically, you see, there were two animals here, and some of you got it right, but most of you thought it was left because one of the two was hiding under a bush. And it was just partially visible. And okay, I mean, I know resolution of the screen, the image is small. Don't worry, I know that it's not easy, but yeah, you see that, oh my God, last rhino is incredible. So you always get them. Okay, and Junior is back. And okay, good. Let's see if we have some challengers in the next image. Question number 4, give it your best shot. Okay, we have almost a uniform distribution here. There were no animals in the image, even though there were some objects that might look like an animal. And this, together with the resolution of the images, can give a lot of problems to the detectors. And I can tell you, most images are like that. The vast majority of images have no animals. So that's a serious problem when you want to enter this type of business. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, we have a new entry, BR Bob, in the final ranking. But now it's time for the very last question. I mean, we could play all day, right? But otherwise, I cannot give you the rest of the presentation. So let's go. That's question number 5. And yeah, have fun. Fun fact: the center part is the same you saw in the previous one. Okay. Aha. So people were focusing in the middle, where the 5 animals of the second questions were, but actually it was more than that. There were 15 of those in the images. It was not easy to find them, especially, you know, not so much time, I know. And yeah, so well done to the 6th person who got it right. So now let's see the podium. Let's see who has won. So the 3rd ranked is Emba. Junior is number 2, and the winner is Last Rhino, who kept the leadership until the very end. And we have Godze and BR Bob as number 4 and number 5. Okay. I hope you liked it. I had a lot of fun. All right, let's go back. Do you see my slides again?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Okay, let's start over and continue. So basically, if you want to know what happened in the last of the questions, most of you got the 5 animals that were in the center, but actually there were some more here and all over the place. So there were a lot of animals that were hiding in the bushes or just not in the middle, and it's not very, very simple to find them. So it's I mean, it's completely normal. And this also show you how complicated it is, because animals are small. We have an average size of 30 by 18 pixels. There are not much of them, and they don't always look the same. On the contrary, the landscape sometimes looks like animals. So sometimes dead trees really look like animals. And it's very diverse. I mean, if I look at the diversity of landscape that we see sometimes, you see, I mean, it's not always a very reddish, bright type of landscape. Sometimes the image quality is so-so. Sometimes you have vegetation, sometimes you don't. So basically, after all this, we had to admit that it was not so simple, actually, to create a model to make this conservation, which actually gave us a lot of energy to kick off even more the SAPMAP project and try to make it happen. Okay, how did we do it? Basically, the first problem we had is that we had a lot of images, but we didn't have basically any annotations. So annotation meaning the game we just played. So just localizing the animals, creating some ground truth to train models. And to do so, we basically teamed up with the QCRI, which is a research center in Qatar, and with the Micromappers team. And they are specialists in crowdsourcing. And we created, well, they created an instance of the Micromapper environment where basically we're asking volunteers all over the world to look into images and click where the animals are. So it was something that looked like that. You could have it on your tablet, on your phone. And we had a massive participation, and with a few hundred volunteers that for 2 days basically labeled. And in 2 days, we had 5 annotation per images. So we have 26,000 images, and we could find 1,000 animals in there. And this was exactly what we needed in order to start kicking off some machine learning. So what we did is that we took all these annotation. You see them here. Every shape here is one person who has been drawing around the animal. And then we had a kind of a confidence map. And with this confidence map, it's more than 3 persons were saying that's an animal. We were keeping that as a label in the ground truth. For example, here, there was just one person who said that this was an animal. So it was not confident enough. This one we didn't use. So we had a check made by multiple persons looking at the same image. So cool, we have images, we have labels. Now the thing that we're missing is basically the machine learning thing, the animal detector. And this is the second part of my talk, where I want to share with you mostly the work of Benjamin, which was how to train an animal detector based on deep learning. And I know he's very happy that I'm using the how you train your dragon picture because he's a fan. All right, so animal detection, which is an instance of object detection. So when you think about object detection, usually you think about you have a picture and you want to draw a bounding box around it, more or less as I showed you on the beginning. But bounding boxes, at least at the beginning, were not the most what interested the rangers the most. They wanted counts. So we started with something more similar. It was more simple, sorry. It was instead of trying to draw in a precise bounding box around the animals, we just wanted to detect and know how many of these were around. So we simplified the problem like that. So given an image, give me a map, a coarse map, telling me in which coarse pixels you have an animal. The model we used is a convolutional neural network. So I'm sure most of you or many of you are familiar with machine learning, probably a little bit of deep learning. If you don't, it doesn't matter. Just remember that these are models that given an image, in case here the image of the car, and the expected answer, in this case Audi, they will try to go from here to here using a set of features which are convolution windows. Imagine as these convolution windows as the low pass or high pass filters we use a lot in traditional remote sensing. So these are moving windows going around the image. The difference is that these parameters are learned by the model and you don't tell them in advance. The second is that you have many of those. So here, for example, you see some of these that are learned by the model. And also, the third difference is that they are hierarchical. So at the beginning, you get convolution filters that are very detailed. They look at color gradients, details on the image. Like this will make you a kind of a border detector oriented vertically. And then the model starts to zoom out and out and out, and you start to see things that are more semantic. And the more you go deeper in the model, the more you start to see things that relate to the class you are trying to describe and not to geometric details of the image itself. Using this type of methodology in many tasks around in computer vision and in application, we have made very big advances. And if you have been at the seminar of Dr. Konrad Schindler a couple of months ago, I'm pretty sure he has been showing you a lot of different applications in remote sensing of common nets. But in our case, the thing that we need to remember is that basically we want to go from an image to a response by learning some kind of representation, which are these filters. So if I put that back in the context of our animal detection problem, basically we have an image, and we want to have in the end a map telling us the animal is here. So if it's white, it means high probability of having an animal. And in the middle, we have this neural network that will make the connection between the image and the response. The question is, are we ready now? And by experience, we have realized that no, a model like that is very, very difficult to train. And this was the big challenge we had at the beginning of this adventure. For example, we have around 1,000 animals, and we had 600 images, which maybe don't seem so much, but these images are big. And it also means that we had roughly 700,000 pixels that were composing the animal and 8 billion pixels composing not animal things. So, I mean, models can get very confused by situation like this one. And we had to work a lot to try to find a configuration where the model could actually learn from this data in a sensible way. And in this first effort we basically explore 5 different ways to train a convolutional neural network. I don't have time to go through the 5, so I've selected 2 that I like and 2 that are maybe easier to explain. But if you want to know more, of course, there is the reference of the paper is down here, and you can have a look. It's also on arXiv, so it's basically open. You can read it from there. So 5 things. The first one I would like to talk with you is the one that probably the most low-hanging fruit of all this, which is model pre-training. And this is something that we do pretty often in deep learning if the input images are of a specific kind. In our case, RGB images. So without the extra very useful spectral band we have often in remote sensing. But if you don't, it also means that you could take and reuse models from computer vision community, but most importantly, models that have been trained on very, very big data sets that are not, in our case, about animal detection, but they can be pretty useful. And the intuition behind that is that in order to be able to recognize this GAMSBOK here, so by the horns, I will say it's a GAMSBOK. But if you remember, I told you that the first low-level features that we learn in SCNN are oriented gradients, right? And you can see here some kind of oriented grayscale structure that we could maybe represent by a filter that looks like that. And something that looks like that, it's also found in natural images, as you can see with this very cute little cat. And so you see, even though these images are very different, they have different points of view, we're trying to solve different tasks, but at the very detailed pixel level of information, maybe we can reuse these low-level features from these very big models. And we basically took one of these that is trained on this ImageNet data set. So it's 40 million images for 1,000 classes. Of course, it's not specialized on wildlife. It, as such, is pretty useless for us. But what we can do is to use all these features learned by this model and use them at the beginning of our pipeline. Okay, so this model here we have taken from a model trained from ImageNet, and this allows us not really to bother about training this part and to focus about the later part, where basically we expect the model to learn what an animal looks like in Africa and seen from a drone. So this was one. The second trick I selected for you is called curriculum learning, and this is something that I personally really like. And it's a strategy to learning that we use when the task is very difficult or unbalanced. And if you remember well, in our case, we had one big problem that you also experienced during the game, is that most images were empty. There was no animal to be found. So while training, it would have been complicated to tell the model what an animal looks like if it keeps receiving inputs where there is nothing to be seen. So learning with a curriculum basically means that we start with a problem that is a simpler subproblem. So in our case, we subset from the entire data set only the images that contain animals. And we start training with that so that our model start to learn filters that make sense to detect animals, because every time we make a forward and backward pass, there is something to be found. So the model can learn the features that detect animals. And where this model is able now to recognize animals in the wild, well, then we just drop the entire data set and we let the model figure out the fine-tuning of all this, and then be able also to reply there is nothing to be found, or there is very little to be found, when there is actually nothing to be found. All right, so five points. The three others, I let you discover them on the paper if you want to know more. Everything is all there, but I want to show you a couple of results. So the first thing we did is, of course, comparing against the baseline. And since we had a baseline, that was the paper of Nicola Ray in 2017, we had the results on the same data set. We basically tested all these different tricks to get all together, one on, one off, and trying to see which one were the most important. So all of them were important in the end. Some were more, some were less, but all of them were pretty cool. And here in the graphics on the right, you basically see our results. So in blue, you see the baseline, which is our former paper. And in violet is this RC paper with the 5 tricks. So this graphics is to be read like this. So the more you go on the right, the more animals we have found. And the more you go up, the less errors you do. So this is precision versus recall. So for example, that will mean that to find 90% of the animals with our model, we will assume a 20% precision. So it means that we will make quite some mistakes. So to find to find 20 animals, we make 80 mistakes. But that's normal. I mean, the more you want to find the animal, the more you allow errors, because you basically want to detect with a higher confidence. Of course, to detect a low recall, you can manage very high precision. But now, what does it mean in practice in our case? In our case, this meant that to have a similar level of recall, so a 90% recall, we were basically decreasing the number of false positives from 20,000 in our previous work to 800 with the new model. So, I mean, I think this number, it tells much more than a precision recall figure. It's that we were decreasing by an order of magnitude the number of errors we were making. And that's pretty cool, especially if someone after you is verifying the detection. This makes that you have saved a lot of time. So of course, we have continued develop this model after the remote sensing of environment paper in other publications and in other projects. And on this data set, this is more or less what we are able to do at the moment. So it's you see what you can do in 2.5 years of research about it. Well, basically the recall rate remains similar. We still can detect between 80 and 90% of the animals in the sea. But what is really a great improvement is the reduction in the number of false positives. So now we can have around 100 false positive when we detect basically 80% of the animals. So I mean, a model like that, it's a model that can be considered usable. And I mean, on the field, unfortunately, I don't have the image for the last model, the one with a very high precision recall. But here you see the baseline in red and the CNN of 2017 compared with the ground truth that is in green. And I mean, you can see that the animals here in green almost always have a blue box below them. And there are not so many blue boxes that do not have a green square corresponding. I mean, compared to the baseline that you can see here, this ensemble of support vector machines is basically doing a lot of false predictions. I mean, this is a result that speeds up a lot the screening by experts. And when I talk with screening by expert, I actually mean it in the sense that we also analyzed how many tiles an expert had to look in order to find all the animals. Let's say 90% of the animals. So with the convolutional neural network trained with the 5 tricks, the expert would have had to screen roughly 300 images to see all the animals, while with the baseline, it would have had to screen basically the whole data set of almost 1,600 images because that model is predicting all over the place. So if there is a prediction, the person had to look into it to verify that there is no animal. But if you still have to look into the whole data set, the interest of a machine learning model is less. So an effective machine learning model, it's a model that actually is able to tell you where there is nothing to be seen, and then you don't have to actually look into that image because it's empty. And this is an example. We are looking at 12 tiles in this case, and there is absolutely no animal here to be seen. So with the convolutional neural net, the ranger would have only to look into this one and tell me that this prediction is wrong. So one tile screened and one click, while with the baseline, it would have already had to screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of these 12 in order to decide that there is basically nothing to be seen. So this is a lot of time gained by the experts. And that's why I like this type of procedures. Okay, and this ends part 2. Mustafa, Sona, how well am I doing with time? Do I still have a few minutes? I take it as a yes, because I can't hear you.
Yes, Dr. Tuia, you have.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Time. Yes.
For some reason, my headset is not working. Can you just talk now? Okay, well, so I work without the headset, and that's it. So I hope you haven't been talking to me during the last 15 minutes because I couldn't hear you, apparently. Have you been? No.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, now
yeah, we can hear you.
Very good, because I could not.
There is no problem.
Maybe you were telling me and I was just continuing. Okay.
No worry, you can continue.
Cool. So let's go to the last part and take this last few minutes. It's not going to be long, and then we can have a discussion. So basically, when we got there, I mean, we could have continued going from publication to publication, and I mean, of course, we did it a little bit, and I mean, it's always nice to have scientific articles, but I mean, it remained very academic, and we have this need to actually make something useful for the real user, for ecologists and rangers. You know, SAFMAP started as a collaboration with natural parks, and now we are more and more trying to have these collaborations going on with ecologists. But we realized that for that, we had to listen a little bit more about their needs. And so we had some discussions, and basically we ended up realizing that basically ecologists need to give value to their imaging campaigns. They have a lot of images, and they very often are sitting on a hard drive, and they've not been used. Often the machine learning expertise is very limited. So it's very nice for us to come with ConvNets, but often it doesn't tell much to people in applications. So an environment that will be easy to use without too much machine learning expertise will be welcome. When we talk about rangers, they want to be able to make repeated censuses, so to go back in the fields many times. So they would like to have models that can update, that do not need labeling campaigns every time. And also they don't like that the images are shared on the web. So the labeling campaign we did was very nice to kickstart, but of course they're not so happy in that happening every time, because then the image and location of animals get shared and poachers can see it. And everybody gets a little nervous about it, and I completely understand. So we tried to listen to all of this, and Benjamin mostly, I mean, that's the praise is to give to him. We have come up with a solution to answer these 4 things. So a tool that is simple and to categorize and organize images based on deep learning, that allows human-machine interaction, and that runs in the cloud, and the user with very safe user management. And we've called that monster AID, and we've developed it in collaboration with Microsoft with the AI for Earth program. Actually, Benjamin developed it while being in an internship there. And basically, AID is a complete platform that allows to make animal censuses in a very simple and intuitive way. It's not limited to animal census. I mean, you can use it for your own data, which is cool. And it has a lot of very nice features that I wanted to present here so that you're familiar with AID, and maybe if you need it, you can use it. So the first question was a tool that is simple to categorize and organize your data and labeling. And basically AID has everything you could wish for. So it's like you can draw bounding boxes, you can click point, you can put your classes, you have shortcuts, you can zoom in, zoom out, you can put if a label is unsure. I mean, you can do in a very intuitive way all these kind of things. You're not limited to bounding boxes. You can, if you're doing image classification, like if you have camera traps, well, you can label image level. If you like to do counting, you could just point click on the animals. If you're looking at a physiology of animals, size, for example, then you draw bounding boxes. If you do blank cover classification, well, you draw pixel, you scribble pixel on the screen, and AID can also digest that. And you see this application has nothing to do with wildlife in general. It has a lot of deep learning models built in. So for example, there is ResNet for classification, ReadInternet for detection, UNet for semantic segmentation, and a couple of in-house models that we developed in our past research. They are there, you can use it, but you can even use your favorite model, the one you developed. You can plug it in very simple because AID interfaces in PyTorch, in TensorFlow, and in Keras, you name it, it can interface to all of those. So it's very, very simple to use. You can do active learning in AID. So you have this type of interactive environment when you can plan your loops and see how many times when people label your images in the cloud, it just comes back to you, how many iterations you retrain, and you can make it interactive. Everything is customizable. It's pretty nice. And it's not just customizable, it's just 100% open source. And this is the thing that I like the most, is that you can basically take it from the GitHub, you can branch it, you can use it and start your own application. Everything is open. And it's really something we give for the community to like boost research in digital animal conservation. So please use it if you like. And if you have a task involving some kind of imaging and some deep learning models, it doesn't have to be wildlife, but it's optimized for that. Woo, okay, so that brings me to the end of the talk, and I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly love to share, and I hope that we'll have a nice discussion in a second. So for me and for my team, animal conservation is very important. It's a real problem. We really want to make a difference there. Through SAVMAP and all the consortia that are about to kickstart, we have a multidisciplinary team, and we try really to not being only the machine learning guy trying to solve our problems just with machine learning. Through AI for Earth and Microsoft and AID, we're trying to provide something that can be used by everyone. Even if you're not too technical, you can use it and have some results. And with a bit of luck, we might make a difference in these different conservation tasks. I need to thank a bunch of people. First of all, you, of course, to listen to me about in this 40 minutes. I hope it was on time. I put some pictures here. It's by no means complete. I'm sure I forgot some people, but these guys are, people in Namibia, people who flew the drone, the crowdsourcing people at Microsoft, my team. I mean, everybody's in there, and they're all great people. And with this, I think I would like to thank you. And before closing, I would like just to give you a little announcement. I don't know if you're aware, but there is change in the air. So I will be saying goodbye to my very cherished loved Wageningen in a couple of months. I will move back to Switzerland and join EPFL, so École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, to start a new lab called ECO, Environmental Computational Science and Earth Observation. And we will be doing a lot of these conservation studies and alpine research. And I mean, if you're looking for a PhD, here's the link for an open position. And don't be afraid to send your CV, but do it quick. Thank you very much, and I hope you liked it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Devis, and before a Q&A session, I would like to mention that if your colleagues who are presented now in this session would like to join Q&A session, we can promote them to panelists so they can help answer the question too.
I don't know, Benjamin, do you want to step in?
Yes, and please write your question in the window of Q&A window, and we have already 3 questions.
Yeah, there are 3 questions.
Okay, so how are we going to do it? Do I?
Devis, can you see the question or?
I can see them now. Do you want me to put them here so everybody can see them?
If you can, yeah, that can be fine.
Okay, good. So I try to make it a bit bigger. Okay, let's see. So question 1, did you try to integrate elevation from digital surface models to your RGB only to the model? Actually, no. We had simply the red, green, blue images. I guess we could have generated a digital surface model because we had the auto-rectified mosaic. So we could have, but we didn't. Yeah. Also because, I mean, having the digital surface model in the model would have prevented us to use the pre-trained one. So we would have had to like train the whole thing from scratch. Does that answer your question? I mean, is it easier to, I don't know if I can ask a decent, I don't know if it's simple to get an answer. Yes, thank you. Cool. Second question from Chuk Man. Were your UAV images taken from the same altitude? Is there any accuracy difference between high image altitudes and near ground images? So if I remember well, the entire data set is taken from the same altitude. So I cannot really answer your question, but what I can answer is something we did in our first paper, is that we changed the resolution of the images to kind of simulate a drone that will fly higher. And I mean, I don't have the numbers in mind exactly, but the original images were 4 centimeter resolution, and while downgrading to 8, the performance was more or less the same, which was good because we could reduce the computation time quite massively. But then, I mean, by reducing more and more, so flying higher, it at some point it was degrading. Yeah. Okay. Third question: do shadows or camouflage create a problem in training data? That's a very good question. So for the labels, we had this dilemma. Now, do we include the shadow in the labels or not? And that's probably also one of the reasons why we went for detection, coarse detection, rather than exact bounding boxes, because otherwise you need to decide whether your bounding box includes the shadow or not. And also it means that depending on the time of the day you take your images, the shadow is more or less present. And again, in this 2017 paper, we had a study to see if we train with morning images and predict midday images and the other way around, how does the accuracy vary? And shadow is indeed a very strong cue to make correct detections. So, I mean, a good point is to make sure that you include images with little shadowing to make the model aware of spatial configurations where there is no shadow and it doesn't get too comfortable in just predicting animal when it sees shadows. Otherwise, dead trees get detected as animal just because they project a shadow, for example. Okay, then next question. Do you count the animals in the original image or the ortho images? How can you deal with animals in movement? When using UAVs, we acquire images with overlap. Exactly. That's why we use the original images. And of course, we will have double counting. That's something that at this moment we cannot solve. If you make an ortho by multiple passes, then with the animals it becomes a little bit complicated. But of course, I mean, you could argue that the difference between the images at the same place would be a very good animal detector. And I mean, I have nothing against that. But in our precise situation, we were not sure to have perfect overlap every time. So we simply went with the original images. Okay, does this, is it a good answer, Jose? Okay, so I continue. If you're not happy, just continue writing the question and we have a discussion. Do you consider vertical or oblique images? These are vertical in our data set. We work with people working on camera traps, which would be more facing images. There is a big community. For example, Sarah Beery at Caltech, she's very much into camera traps. In Wageningen, the group of Frank van Langevelde, they are very much into camera traps. I'm a remote sensing guy, so I did what I knew best, which was to look from above, and yeah, that's the experience I have. Then, how we can be reduce software running time from a big volume data? That's a good question, but I will say use AID, because AID is fully parallelized in the cloud. It goes on multiple workers, so the training time is decreased by the fact that you use multiple GPUs, and this is typically one way for the software running time, and yeah, that's it basically. Then Saisharan, animals travel a lot. The number of animals may duplicate in another image. How do you overcome this problem? For the moment, we don't. We're also working a little bit with tracking, where we will have the drone following animals and then having videos. But I mean, this is for the future. For the moment, we're not really working on double counting. You could work on priors, for example. You know where the drone is. You know how much time has elapsed between two images. If you know the speed of the animal on average, maybe you can think, okay, is it likely that this group of animals is the same I have already observed? I mean, at the moment, that's probably the best answer I can come up with. But for the moment, we work mostly static. Okay. Is the dataset available? Yes, it's on Zenodo. Have a look to the papers on archive. I'm pretty sure there is a link there, and if not, you can just write us an email, and we'll just give you the magic link. But I mean, you can check on Zenodo for a paper by Matthew Parkan and Stefan Joost, and I mean, I will quickly look it up for you. But I'm pretty sure it's written in one of the two remote sensing of environment papers, so you can get it from there. Lakshmi, what do you think about the use of data augmentation technique in case of small number of images instead of using other unrelated images like those from ImageNet you mentioned? I mean, these are two different problems. I think that if you can use both. I mean, there is massive data augmentation behind this model as well, because you need as much information as you can to train it, and yeah, you need to be sure that you train your model in different configurations. You just maybe need to be a little bit careful about the direction of the shadows, and doing things that are realistic and not make augmentation that is a bit absurd. But adding motion blur, adding noise, cropping the images a little bit, shaking it up. These are things that we always do, and it helps a lot the smoothness of training. But starting from a pre-trained model, if you have that luxury, it's having a warm start on your model. So I mean, one doesn't exclude the other. Okay, have you tried or are you planning to use mask RCNN? I mean, the day we have to make single segmentation masks around the animal and we need to differentiate them, that's definitely a very good model. And I mean, the moment we have a need for that, that's definitely a good starting point. And then, I mean, the story is always to start something that is solid as a model, like mask RCNN, and then customize it by adding all these specificities that are remote sensing based, that are maybe related to the point of view, or, well, I mean, the things we were discussing before about, having this these priors of movement. I mean, this is something that mask RCNN cannot do, but you can develop something that includes that, and that making a vision model very useful for remote sensing and conservation, which would be a very strong contribution. Okay. Please describe a little bit about Waldo. Waldo is a game that I don't know, I used to play when I was a kid, and it's a book. And these are drawings, and you have a lot of little persons in a very crowded scenes, and there is one Waldo, and this is the guy with the glasses, but many people wear similar clothes and they look a little bit like him, so you spend a lot of time finding Waldo, and it's a fun game. It's a fun game for kids, and I guess that if we have a good object detector in our eyes and our brain, it's also thanks to Waldo. So it was just a little souvenir of that, and I wanted to put. But okay, question 2, is crowdsourcing give exact info for what we want? No, crowdsourcing is full of errors because people mean well, but people make mistake as much as algorithms. So you need to find ways to make sure that you don't get in too many errors. So having many people detect the same thing is one, maybe having golden questions. So you have some images that you have annotated yourself and you know where the animals are. And then you check if the annotators find the right things. This is one way. And if you see that people systematically make mistakes, maybe they're trying to destroy your crowdsourcing campaign, or maybe they're just not very good at spotting animals. I mean, that it's also possible. Question 3, is this technology, can it be used for nighttime analysis or even poachers? If yes, so please clarify which remote sensing can be done, which band we choose for better results. Okay, that's a good one. So in the night, you will need a thermal sensor, that's for sure, to find animals. So this is something that is done pretty much here in the Netherlands, and I heard about it in Switzerland as well. People use thermal cameras to find wild animals in the grass. For example, when they are with harvesting machine and they don't want to kill little animals that are hiding in the grass, they have such cameras, and this is a very nice application. In Namibia, it's complicated to use thermal information because of many reasons. First, you don't want to fly a drone at night because it's dangerous. Everything out there could kill you. So you really need to know what you're doing when you fly a drone, and maybe if the drone doesn't fly back, then you need to retrieve it somehow. And yeah, so that could be, for example, one limitation of using thermal cameras, because during the day you cannot really, because the temperature is so warm that you don't pick up any signal. And the second thing is that if you use thermal data, then you need to train your whole model from scratch, which it's very exciting, but you will need a lot of data. You cannot use pre-trained models if your inputs are different from red, green, blue, or let's say 3-band type of information. So I mean, I will say it's exciting ideas for future research, but you need to think it thoroughly. Is that the right word? Yes. What is the spatial resolution of EB? It depends on how high you fly. In our case, we had a 4-centimeter resolution, and I think we were flying. Oh, I don't want to say things that are incorrect. I think we were about 100-meter high, but it depends also on the camera you use. I mean, the resolution of your camera will also define. I mean, it's the resolution of the camera, height, speed, everything together will define the spatial resolution of the EB. The EB is just a little drone flying around. Oh, question 4 from Banu Bashkar. Which scanner we prefer most for photography in this case? It depends on what your metric is. For us, it was safety and cost. So we could not put a $50,000 camera on the drone because drones crash very often, because sometimes we lose it. And so we wanted to go with a camera that was very cheap and that people in Namibia could use and to replicate what we were doing. So we went for the cheapest possible. So like a very normal Canon camera that you can find in any store that sells cameras. Yeah. So yeah. Nicholas, do you fly yourself or collaborate with local people, rangers, citizens, scientists? So, oh, Benjamin, you're here. Hi.
Hey.
So if you want to correct me with something, please do.
I'll join as well.
Cool. Do you fly yourself? So this was the SAFMAT project we had at the beginning, and it was a consortium. And the Lab for Geographic Information System of EPFL managed the flights. So there were GIS people, and there were 2 PhD students who basically went 2 weeks each in Africa and flew the drones. So they brought the drone in Africa and flew it around. The crowdsourcers were just people around the world, and the rangers were helping our students to be around and be safe with respect to the wildlife around. Laura, how did you manage the false positive? Benny, do you want to answer that so I can breathe?
Yeah, sure, I can take over a bit.
Sure.
That's actually a good question. In the papers in the studies Davis showed, we did not directly address the false negatives. It's the false positives, yeah. So one of the things we did to reduce the number of false positives was through hard negative mining, which is whenever the model predicts something in an image, we took the 4 most confidently mispredicted false positives and amplified the weights on them so that their number got reduced. And the second thing is what also helped a lot is what Davis showed was the curriculum learning, in that we, for the remaining epochs after we had warm started the model, we added all of the images where there is no animals at all, so that the model could learn all the background variation. And this had a great positive impact in reducing the number of false positives as well. It's mostly these 2 things.
All right, then ESRI1 ArcGIS, how can you deal with animal movement using temporal data of UAV images? Well, search about it and you tell me a nice solution. I think the solution will have to involve videos and tracking and some kind of models from video, for example, recurrent nets or things like that. But I mean, for the time being, I don't know, because we never really tried. So have a go and let us know how it went. Jonathan, can you talk a bit more about how you deal with stuff inside the label area which isn't the animal and preventing false ves, and I think it's veg, probably vegetation. Okay, so of course we had these labeling campaigns and we tried to look into them as much as possible to be sure that they were correct. And then we kind of assumed that everything that was not labeled was not an animal. So we were also working with hard negative mining, which is one of the 5 tricks. And this one was like when you predict with high confidence something that is not an animal like an animal, we penalize very strongly. And this also forced the model to realize what this thing, that some things look like animals, but they are not. And we were using our ground truth in order to do that. Can AID be used for pulsar images? Benny, that's for you.
Yeah, it can be used if you convert the pulsar images to JPEGs. That's the problem. At the moment, AID only supports like internet compliant images, so 3-band or up to 3-band RGB JPEGs or PNGs or things like that. But you can convert them and then extract the labels and use them with your original INSAR image or pulsar images, and it should work just as well. Needs a bit of extra work, but yeah.
Great. Oh, question number 5. In your perspective, will there a boom of jobs in the platform machine learning for geology students? Oh, that's a very perspective question. Will there be a boom of jobs in machine learning? Yes, I mean, there is already. So I see more and more jobs which have some kind of data science flavor in it. So I think that, you know, knowing a bit of machine learning, deep learning, it's useful. Will that happen for geology? It's possible. There is a lot of signal processing going on in geology. So machine learning, it's logical next step. But of course, it's going to be a lot of unsupervised learning and 3D type of models, I guess. Yeah. I mean, like that, I will say it's definitely a good arrow to have in your skill set. And you know, today you do geology. Who knows what you're going to do in 5 years? So I mean, it's mostly about skills, and some data skills nowadays I think are very, very desirable. How can detect animal under dense forest cover? You can't with this type of images. I mean, if you don't see them, you can detect them. That's the problem of image recognition based models. You will have to, unless you can see it inside the leaves, but I mean, it's a lot of if with some movement, probably. I mean, if you have some videos and the animal is moving, the rest is not. I mean, with a lot of assumption, maybe there is something you can do, but in principle, if you don't see something in the image, you just can't detect Does the size of the animal affect the result detection? Will it be possible to train smaller animals? In principle, yes. If you have something to train this on, there is some very nice work by Benjamin Risse, which is a professor in Münster, and they detect very, very small animals like ants with handheld smartphones. But I mean, this also involves training models with data that are from that type of resolution. If a model is trained on mammals, it will probably fail if you try to detect small animals. And again, resolution is 4 centimeters at the best. So if you want to detect ants, you won't see them in the images. So you just can't detect them. Hossein, hi Hossein, good to see you. Have you evaluated how much your model is noise resistant compared to other deep learning based models? Good one. So in the 2019 paper, there are some comparisons with these different tricks on and off, and we always try to see how much the curves change. Benny, correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't take the luxury of comparing different deep learning models. We just took ResNet all the time. Honestly, I prefer the part where I try to make a solution that it's problem specific. I'm pretty sure in one situation, VGG will be better than AlexNet or DenseNet. And for me, I mean, I like to see a model that works good enough. And then I prefer to focus on the novel part, which is making this model serve a very good environmental application. So and then it's very problem specific. Maybe in one place, one works better, in the other, another. And, you know, if you have one model you trust, I will say go with that one. Nicolas, cool, thank you. No need to refresh the input data. No need to refresh the input data. Can you maybe just type down a little bit what you mean by that? I go to the next, after COVID-19. This is also a little bit.
I think this was for machine learning opportunities in geology.
Oh,
it was a follow-up on the previous question.
I mean, let's hope COVID-19 doesn't impact our life too much more than it already has, right? I will say, you know, let's keep positive and hope that everything will go back to normal and we'll still be able to you know, have fun with while improving the quality of our nature and fighting these battles that are very important. I mean, I don't want the pandemic to change everything, so I'll do everything I can not to. Let's say it like that. Sorry, to fly again, acquire new image from UAV. So, all right. So the question is how well you can reuse the model you train in one campaign to another. So that's, I mean, it's a very relevant point, and this is why we're making aid, is to give models that are warm started for specific tasks, and you can start from those one, and then with your new data and the labels you can get, improve them and make them adapt to your precise situation. Is to like decrease the amount of labels you need to have this model predict something relevant, and that's exactly what we hope this platform will be able to achieve. But time will tell if we were right. Woo! We made it. We went through all the questions.
We have one more question on YouTube.
Oh, okay. How do I see that?
Yes, I can read this. And how is the performance of the model with more elusive and nocturnal species like carnivores? From Nicholas. I have also sent you in the chat box.
There's so many things to check. Well, up to now, we've never really made distinction between species. So we're basically detecting animals, mammals, so big mammals, irrespectively of the species, because we don't have this information. We're now collaborating with people from the Max Planck in Constance, and they work by species. So we hope to have some answer about it soon, but for the time being, I don't know. And about the nocturnal animals, again, all our data are day-based, so I cannot really tell. But if you talk to camera trap experts like Sarah Beery, I'm pretty sure she has an answer for that, because they use like thermal cameras, and or yeah, out there, and they have a lot of night footage. Yeah, but I don't want to answer for someone else because I don't know. Okay.
Last question. And on behalf of ISPRS Student Consortium, I would like to thank you, Dr. Devis, for this great presentation. And Benjamin, thank you so much for answering the question too. And I would like give a few announcements before we close our session, and that the recorded version of video and slide will be available, and we will send you email, and also, of course, for evaluation form, which we will send you, please complete them, because it will be great for us to know your feedback, and it helps us to improve our organization for the next future webinars. And for getting information about our future events, our future webinar, you can follow us on social media and follow our website. And thank you again for being here. Thank you, Devis, Dr. Devis, Dr. Benjamin. And
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for your amazing presentation.
Okay, there is a question from Nicolas I would like to answer. So Nicolas, yes, if you felt easy in Lausanne, but they're opening new campuses and ours is in Sion, and it's going to be amazing. Cheers.
Yeah, so, sorry, can I just have one more question? I think this is just very basic. So could you please provide information about the group of researchers working on automatic identification and camera traps that Dr. Devis mentioned before? I'm not sure if.
Okay, so it's a Caltech, if I remember well, and it's a group of Pietro Perona, and it's one of his PhD students called Sarah Beery, and she's very involved in camera trap mapping with deep learning. Otherwise, in Wageningen here, where I am, there is the animal conservation group led by Frank van Lankevelde, and they do poachers detections. And they are ecologists, and they also do a lot of data science related to wildlife conservation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think on behalf of the consortium, we would like to thank you again, Dr. Tuia and Dr. Benjamin, for joining us today. I think this has been a very, very interesting discussion. So thank you very much. And also to Sana and to Mustafa for moderating this webinar.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Davis. That was an amazing presentation.
Yeah, cheers. It was a pleasure. Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.